Hey, what's up guys? John here. So Gavin Newsom is setting us up for an aggressive lockdown. I'm going to cover everything that I know in this video. What's crazy is having been here in LA for 15 years, but over the last year watching nearly every single business in downtown LA, Santa Monica, Venice, all of the prime areas boarded up, closed. It's a ghost town filled with homeless people and crime. And now things are going to get really bad. I personally believe 2020 was a setup for 2021. I think 2021 is going to get really nasty. You know, what's also very fascinating to me is seeing people experienced and really suffering through this. It's a tragedy. My neighbor, for example, moved here from Chihuahua, Mexico in the early 70s, started a little Mexican restaurant in East LA. It's successful. I mean, it's a restaurant. Now, no indoor and outdoor dining under Gavin's plan. Her restaurant is bleeding money. I saw her today. It looked like she was about to cry. She has a 4-unit, little house in the front, 3 units in the back. She rents out the 3 units to people that work in a restaurant. Well, now those people could be out of a job. She could lose her restaurant, and then she won't have really a way to pay her mortgage. So she could literally lose everything on Gavin's lockdown. Meanwhile, his favorite restaurant, the French Laundry, received $2.4 million in PPP loans, and they're still operating. Gavin's restaurants, his winery, still open, still operating. Everything is still great for them. Meanwhile, everyone else is suffering. So if you'd like to get in the way and block Gavin from really the chaos that he's trying to create and all the lives he's going to destroy, all you have to do is 2 things. Hit the like button. YouTube will then share the content. And then 2, there's a Recall Gavin link, top comment. You can look into it, see if you want to sign it. It's to help recall Gavin Newsom and get California back on track. California is an absolutely amazing place. I love it. And if it wasn't for what's happening right now, I wouldn't leave in a million years. So I'm going to cover everything that I know in this video. Hit that like button, please, and let's begin. So for those that don't live in California, to show you how crazy it is, churches have to be reclassified as strip clubs because strip clubs are deemed essential and churches are not. So the house of worship is not essential, but a strip club is. So all of these churches throughout the state of California have to now reclassify as strip clubs. And this is what they have to do. Otherwise, the priest could be fined or even jailed if they don't. How insane is that? You ask that question is, what world are we living in where this is normal? And who would ever open a business in California? Who would ever open a church? Who would ever want to be a part of what California now has become? Gavin Newsom says we need just a few more weeks of lockdown. And he thinks that this is going to make the big difference. Us being locked down for a few more weeks. ICU beds have hit capacity. And he does not want to see hospitals overwhelmed. So he wants you to stay home, stay indoors, don't visit family for the holidays. Not Christmas, not New Year's, nothing. And just like Thanksgiving, he said, don't visit your family. But a lot of people didn't listen. And because of that, now people are starting to wake up, it seems. But Newsom, he sees this as an opportunity to be like a god. And that's what he's become. He went from being a no-name politician that not many people knew of to being someone that is known all around the world. Many people look to this man as an influencer, as someone that is a leader and doing a good thing. But if you really look at the core of Gavin Newsom, he just signed a $1 billion mask deal, and he probably made a fortune on that deal. All with taxpayer money, a $1 billion deal. Got a $3 million mansion paid off in cash right before the pandemic. Eric Garcetti with his $5 billion house, and those two are both connected to a real estate fraudster who's doing bribery schemes and racketeering. These people are the ones that are dictating and controlling our entire lives. Nancy Pelosi's nephew is Gavin Newsom, and she said about 2 years ago that $1,000 is crumbs. Now imagine $1,000 is crumbs 2 years ago. What is $600 now after we've printed so much money? What is it, $500? That's crumbs? 1,000? Well, imagine how starving single mothers are and people losing their businesses are surviving on $600. That's 2 trips to Whole Foods. That's a week's, maybe 10 days worth of groceries, 2 weeks worth of groceries if you have kids. These people are depending on the government to do the right thing. But all the government is doing is seeing this as an opportunity to seize more power and more control over people's everyday livelihood and their business. And they do that with offering these bogus stimulus checks and PPP loans. These stimulus checks ultimately are, we're chasing a carrot. We just never get there. People think that the government's going to be here to save us, and they're not. If they haven't made that quite clear, they gave $1 billion to the Smithsonian and gave everybody else $600. That is a real testament to how much the government cares about the everyday American. I feel bad for all the businesses in California right now that are depending on the state, thinking that the state has their best interest in mind. All the state's doing is saying, sure, I got you, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. Here's another loan. And before you know it, there's going to be a gotcha moment. And these businesses are going to be done. And that's why you'll never hear me talking about great things with the government issuing money and stimulus and all that, because I know it's a lie. And right now, what the everyday American's doing is giving up their freedoms and liberties for an illusion. So don't trust Gavin Newsom, especially, because that man sees this moment right now as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to really scale and hit the elite, really get to that top tier. And he knows that inside the next 6 to 12 months is his moment to shine. But we must stop this man from ruining the lives of 40 million people inside the state of California. California is the 5th largest GDP in the entire world, next to Germany and the UK. We have so much going for us, with one exception, which is Gavin Newsom. And what else is happening right now, if you can't tell, is new technology is getting brought in to help stop the spread, to make things more safe. And one of these technologies is getting rolled out in California. This article just came out 2 days ago. And what the company is called Neuro. And I'm going to read it to you. It says, there's a handful of companies that are currently able to test driverless vehicles in the state of California. They're talking about Lyft's new vehicle that's coming out 2023, driverless, as well as Amazon's vehicle that's driverless as well. But none of these can charge a fee for the services that they render to customers. According to the announcement by the California DMV on Wednesday, that's changing because autonomous delivery startup Neuro has been issued the first deployment permit. So Uber Eats, Grubhub, these little side hustles that people depend on for pocket change, they're all going to be in jeopardy. And what's ultimately going to happen is, as these small mom and pop businesses, restaurants like my neighbor, all these people lose their jobs, they're going to become more dependent on the state and on the government. And with advancements like the driverless vehicle and other advancements, we're going to slowly start stepping into a world where it's very difficult for Americans to compete for jobs. It's right around the corner. It seems so futuristic, but we're really 6 months, 12 months, 24 months away before we start pulling up to a stop sign and seeing the vehicle next to us has no driver, and they're delivering 40 packages. This is what's going to happen. And as this happens, you have to ask yourself, if you own that company, you buy that vehicle one time, just one time. Say you spend $100,000 for it. It works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it will never sue you. It'll never get sick. It never needs a lunch break. You have no workers' comp. You have no liability with it. You literally just buy it once. It's the most profitable business model. Whereas humans are very unreliable. They get sick. They'll sue you. They have problems. But as this change occurs, we step into a situation where corporations see this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to absorb the market share of all these small mom and pop businesses. And what better location than a place like California with the 5th largest GDP, 40 million people. You have a lot of opportunity here. You have a lot of big companies, you have a ton of capital, and they're seeing this as an opportunity to absorb this market. And I think Gavin Newsom sees this as a way for him to partner up with big companies and line his pockets with cash and really put himself in a position to absorb a lot of power. So this is where we're heading. So what happens when you couple massive job loss with innovation and rent control? That's what we have in California. We have something called rent control. And what rent control is, it's a provision in the law that protects tenants from having their rents increased above what is allowable. So if you have a property that's 1980s or older, then it's classified as rent control, no matter where it is in California. Now, a lot of landlords will have a tenant that have been there for 20 or 30 years, and their rents were very low, $500 or $600, and they never wanted to increase the rent because that tenant was like family. Now what happens is over all those years, if a new owner took possession of that property, they would not be able to increase the rent to market level. It would stay at that low level, which protects the tenant, which is a good thing for that tenant. But what happens when that working class tenant no longer has work? They're out of luck because there's nowhere cheaper they can go in the world for $500 or $600 or $700. And this is a very common, there's millions of apartments like this across California where all these people are going to be out of work. Now, they might not be paying now because of the eviction moratorium, which is fine. But when that runs out, then these people are going to have to, A, have a job, B, have the money to reimburse the landlord, and C, if they don't, they're going to have to move to either a homeless shelter or with a friend or a family member or on the street. So you have all these working class people that thought that they were established and set up for the rest of their lives. Gavin Newsom came in and stripped them of their livelihood. Now you're going to have all these people that are going to be homeless, all due to Gavin Newsom. But it's a two-part problem because, yes, they lose their home. The second part is that you're going to have so much supply, so many apartments open up in California for rent that it's going to drop the rents even lower. So I just rented 2 apartments in LA. One was a 1-bedroom that would have rented for probably $3,000 about a year ago. I just rented it for $1,850. And then a 2-bedroom that would have rented for probably $3,500. Same time, maybe a year ago, I rented it for $1,600 just because of a specific type of tenant and the terms and conditions inside the lease. It made sense for me to do that. But this is the world we're going. I believe in 6 months, I'm going to look back and say, you know what, I'm happy that I did that. I'm happy I took those tenants. And I believe rents are going to continue dropping. And as they drop, landlords with fixed debt on their properties aren't going to be able to reduce the rents 50% and still be able to pay for all their expenses. So they lose their properties. And then it all falls perfectly into the trap of Gavin Newsom's new bill where he has first right of refusal on all real estate foreclosures, ultimately seizing everybody's assets and taking control of the entire state. It is the most corrupt thing I've ever witnessed in my entire life, and no one really seems to be talking about the problems that are going to be facing real estate in California. If I were able to short California real estate as a bet, I would go all in and bet that within the next couple of years, probably 6 months to 24 months, we're going to see a massive wave of foreclosures and defaults and bankruptcies across the entire state unless Gavin Newsom is recalled and some radical change comes in. So please hit that like button. Let's get the word out. Let's try to help as many people as possible. And if you want to learn about real estate, personal finance, business, and money, consider subscribing. And I'll see you guys next video.